This is massive world news. We haven't seen anything like it in our generation. The stripping of all military affiliations and patronages from a prince of the British royal family.
This is a way of amputating the foot with gangrene to save the royal body.
Well, I don't know if I'd call it massive world news, but if you're interested in Britain's royal family, the Prince Andrew scandal is shocking stuff. Last week, the Queen stripped her favourite son of all his military titles and patronages, and most importantly, he will no longer be known as His Royal Highness. Her Majesty took the decision after a judge in New York ruled that Andrew would face a civil trial over allegations that he had had sex with a 17-year-old Virginia Giuffre while she was being sex-trafficked by the US billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. The Prince denies the allegation. Since that decision, there's been a slew of revelations, accusations, and a witness against Prince Andrew has now stepped forward out of the shadows. We will be speaking to Arick Fudali, a lawyer at the firm which is representing the witness, in a moment. We'll also hear from another lawyer, Professor Alan Dershowitz, who has been similarly accused by Virginia Giuffre and recently wrote an article entitled, "What If Prince Andrew Were Innocent?" And for all matters royal, we'll be speaking with the Queen's former press secretary, Dickie Arbiter, and we'll hear from Russell Myers, the royal editor for the Daily Mirror, who's just appeared in a major new documentary, Ghislaine, Prince Andrew and the Paedophile. But first, a quick look at how the Queen suddenly and decisively ended the royal career of her favourite son.
It's a major bombshell in the Prince Andrew saga.
With the Queen's approval and agreement, the Duke of York's military affiliations and royal patronages have been returned to the Queen. The Duke of York will continue not to undertake any public duties and is defending this case as a private citizen.
This is massive world news. We haven't seen anything like it in our generation.
We are not going to see Prince Andrew out and about again as a working member of the royal family.
It comes after a court ruling in the US which left the prince facing a civil case later this year against Virginia Giuffre.
She says she was sexually exploited by Jeffrey Epstein. Ms. Giuffre, then known as Roberts, says Epstein coerced the then teenager into abuse by Prince Andrew.
An allegation, of course, which he denies.
I can absolutely categorically tell you it never happened.
Irrespective of his innocence or guilt in this case, his reputation is shredded because of his repeated failures of judgment, captured in 3 photos we're very familiar with. Him with Epstein in Central Park in 2010, Andrew with his arm around the bare midriff of Virginia Giuffre, and then Epstein and Maxwell on holiday at Balmoral.
If the monarchy needs to be protected by having the Duke of York go through these legal proceedings as a private citizen, then that's what has to happen.
A source close to the Duke said this is a marathon, not a sprint, and the Duke will continue to defend himself against these claims.
Is there anything legally he can do to stop this being fully exposed with texts and emails?
He can settle the case. If he does not want the facts to start pouring out, he has to settle the case.
Of course, to do that, Virginia Giuffre would have to also agree to settle. And from what we know from sources close to her and from what she has said publicly, she is not inclined to do that.
Prince Andrew should be panicking. He needs to be held accountable. We need to show the world that the rich and the mighty can fall too.
He's seriously on the ropes at the moment. He's had a serious blow. He may yet attempt to try and get this delayed, get this thrown out.
Today, another twist. The lawyers for Prince Andrew filed legal documents claiming the woman accusing him of sexual assault may suffer from false memories.
If things did not happen the way she is saying, then there are 2 reasons why she might be saying it. One is that she's lying. The other is that she has come to believe it and she has false memories.
He knows exactly what he's done, and I hope he comes clean about it. Thank you.
Well, the legal teams for both Prince Andrew and Virginia Giuffre are now working on their cases and have around till July to question witnesses and experts in preparation for a trial later this year, probably sometime after September. Of course, Andrew participating in a trial is just one of 3 possible outcomes. It may not come to that. The majority of these civil cases are settled out of court. A third option is that Prince Andrew defaults, which means he refuses to cooperate. But if he does that, the court will automatically find in Giuffre's favour. Let's bring in our guest now. And Arick Fudali, I'd like to start with you. Do you expect this case to go to trial?
I would be surprised if it went all the way to trial. Prince Andrew now, he does have the three options. He can participate in the litigation process. He can participate in discovery. And he can do what a lot of people have been saying he should do, is go ahead and try to prove his innocence or try to disprove Ms. Giuffre's case. He has that opportunity now if he wants. The other opportunity is to, of course, resolve the case and move on, or to just avoid the case altogether and default. But he's had the opportunity to step into the court and to prove his case or attempt to prove his case since day one of this case, since the case was filed. So now that the case is dismissed and he has less, or the case, his motion to dismiss was denied and he has less options, I expect him to participate in discovery, sit for a deposition, and move forward towards trial at least.
Professor Dershowitz, just on that specific point, do you think Prince Andrew will make it to trial, will go to trial and see it through?
Well, I hope he does what I did. He should countersue the liar who has accused him. Virginia Giuffre has a long history of lying about me, about George Mitchell, about Barack.
I'm sorry, Professor Dershowitz, to jump in. We will come to all of that. But specifically, your prediction, do you think he will go to trial? Do you think he'll settle? What will he do?
I don't think he should settle. I don't know what he will do. I think he should countersue and put her on the defensive and make her prove her charges. She has no proof beyond a photograph. It's certainly possible that all that happened is that she and he took a photograph together and nothing else happened.
Okay.
And he'll put her to her proof and countersue her.
Well, let's see what his legal team decides. Arick, your firm made the headlines here in the UK just yesterday when it revealed much more details about the witness against Prince Andrew that your firm represents. Can you tell us what those details are?
Yes, well, we're proud to represent Ms. Walker, and she is willing to participate in a deposition that Ms. Giuffre's team seeks. So she will participate, and it'll be up to Ms. Giuffre's team or Prince Andrew's team to see if they want to move forward with those depositions.
What sort of details is Sukri Walker willing to provide?
I can't go beyond that, other than that she's willing to be deposed, she's willing to participate, and that information will be revealed as the deposition moves forward.
Okay. Well, Professor Dershowitz, before I can ask you about Prince Andrew, I have to remind our viewers, of course, that Virginia Giuffre has also accused you of having sex with her when she was a minor and was being sex trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. Just for the record, do you still deny those accusations?
Well, deny it. I've disproved it categorically. In her own manuscript, she claims she never met me, never heard of me. She had to be told by Sharon Churcher who I was. She told the FBI that she did not have sex with me. She was shown a picture of me. She told her best friend, Rebecca Boylan, that she was pressured into naming me as part, essentially, of an extortion plot against Leslie Wexner. No, I don't merely deny it. I have categorically, unequivocally disproved it, and she hasn't come forward with one bit of evidence because she can't. It's impossible to have evidence of an event that didn't occur. I never met her. I never had sex with her. Never had sex with an underage person in my life. I have had sex only with my wife during the relevant period of time. So it's not a mere denial. It's a categorical disproof. And let's remember one other thing. No government agency has concluded that either I did anything wrong or Prince Andrew did anything wrong. This is merely the accusation of one woman with a long history of lying, not an indictment, not a government accusation.
Understood.
So let's be clear, nobody should be presumed guilty.
I'm going to come to your article in a moment. Yesterday, you tweeted a 2015 article from the Daily Mail in which Giuffre's former friends described her as money hungry and much worse. Some of the comments under your tweet accused you of trying to smear her as your defense and pointed out that she was only 16 when Epstein trafficked her. Do you regret tweeting that article?
No, she was not 16. She lied about her age. First said she was 14, then she said she was 15. It turned out she was over 18, and she wasn't trafficked. What happened is she was the trafficker. She got a young girl named Carolyn who was 14, and she was paid to bring Carolyn to Epstein. She was a trafficker, a sex trafficker. So no, I don't regret it at all. I'm not trying to silence her. I want her to talk more and more. The more she talks, the more she exposes her perjury. She's been trying to silence me, and the BBC has tried to silence me. I will not be silenced. I will defend myself because I did nothing wrong.
This program, of course, is about Prince Andrew, so let's turn to him. Let me ask you about the article that you wrote in the last couple of days. What if Prince Andrew were innocent? Why did you feel the need to write that article?
Because nobody should be presumed guilty on the basis of one liar making an accusation. It's certainly possible that the only thing Prince Andrew did was to take a photograph with her. Now, there has to be proof. And I wrote a book called Guilt by Accusation. And the theory of that book is today, people are found guilty, whether by the Queen or anybody else, just based on an accusation. And accusations alone, particularly if they're not made by the government, they're not done after an investigation. They're made by money-hungry lawyers and money-hungry clients looking to line their pockets, people with long histories of lying. Nobody should be presumed guilty.
Arick Fudali, this is not a court of law, this is a TV program, but you've heard what Professor Dershowitz has had to say. Amongst other things, he's called Virginia Giuffre a liar, and he's also said that he's proved conclusively that he's innocent. As a lawyer, do you buy these arguments and these accusations?
Well, I'm certainly hearing a lot of victim blaming, a lot of victim shaming, even some lawyer blaming and lawyer shaming from Mr. Dershowitz, which is certainly something as representing victims of sexual abuse I hear all the time, so I'm not surprised. What I would add, though, to Mr. Dershowitz's article is Prince Andrew absolutely has had since day one the opportunity to prove his innocence. He has had that chance. He could have stepped into court and he could have shown the world his evidence or Ms. Giuffre's lack of evidence, so he claims, and he could have proven his innocence or disproven Ms. Giuffre's case. But he didn't do that. Instead, he's tried time and time again and gone through great lengths to avoid having his day in court. He tried to avoid service of the lawsuit.
Victim shaming. But when I've done that, you call it victim shaming. So you can't have it both ways. You can't condemn Prince Andrew for being
Mr.
silent.
Dershowitz, I'm in the middle. I'm talking. I did not interrupt you. Please do not interrupt me. He has had his opportunity. Instead, he tried to avoid service, and then he tried to move to dismiss the case based on a technicality, even going so far as to try to rule the Child Victims Act as unconstitutional, which would have ruled that multiple victims, adult survivors of child sexual abuse, would not be able to have their day in court. So Prince Andrew has gone through great lengths to avoid the opportunity to prove his case, which I find baffling.
Professor Dershowitz?
Well, but I have gone to great lengths not to be silent. I've gone to great lengths to fight back, and you condemn me for that. You cannot have it both ways. Do you want victims, and I'm a victim of a false accusation, to remain silent, or do you want us to fight back? I have fought back, and you've condemned me. Prince Andrew has not fought back, and you condemn him. I think the finger of condemnation points at you. You can't have it both ways.
Mr. Dershowitz, I have no idea what you're talking about. I haven't condemned anyone. I don't even know what you're talking about. I am absolutely for everyone in this case and all cases having their day in court, being able to prove their case or disprove their case in court. That's what I think I'd like to see. That's what I think Ms. Giuffre would like to see. That's what I think the public would like to see. They'd like to see these allegations played out in a court of law, not in the media, not in op-eds on Newsmax. They'd like to see this played out in the court of law, where every party has their opportunity to present their evidence and to prove it or disprove it. That's what we want to see.
Yeah, on that point,
to have her day in court.
Arick Fudali, on that point, it's been said in a lot of commentary that Prince Andrew has to prove a negative, that he didn't have sex with her. How does he go about doing that, even if it were possible?
Well, that is certainly a difficult task, but it's up to Ms. Giuffre to prove her case, and she can do so with testimonial evidence, documentary evidence, and then and any evidence she can present, and then Prince Andrew will have the opportunity to try to disprove that evidence, try to counter that evidence, and try to present his own evidence in his defense.
Professor Dershowitz, a final answer,
please. Virginia Giuffre has tried this case in the media from day one. Her accusation against me was made in public. All of the accusations have been made in the media. So of course I've had to respond in the media. I'm always going to respond to lies where they're told. I'm going to respond in the media. I'm going to respond in court. And you're going to call me a victim shamer. Shame on you.
Gentlemen, just pause for a second. We've got to turn to the impact on the British monarchy now. And the Queen is celebrating 70 years on the throne this year. Her Platinum Jubilee, huge celebrations are expected, the likes of which Britain hasn't seen in a very long time. While Her Majesty has always put duty first, the royal family as an institution has been rocked by numerous scandals and traumatic events, particularly in the latter half of her reign. The breakup of Charles and Diana's marriage due to infidelity, the breakup of Andrew and Fergie's marriage, followed by pictures of Fergie's toe-curling fling with her financial advisor, all caught on camera. The death of Diana and her boyfriend Dodi Fayed in Paris, hounded by the paparazzi. The pictures of Prince Harry dressed as a Nazi during a fancy dress party. And most recently, Harry and wife Meghan taking off to America and making allegations of racism against someone very senior in the royal household. Back to Dickie. Dickie, of all the scandals that we've just reeled off, and there's been quite a few in living memory, is this the most damaging?
It's an interesting point that you make. Is it the most damaging to the institution? Look, every scandal has not damaged the institution, but rocked it. But it gets back on an even keel. Look, we had the Annus Horribilis in 1992. You reeled off a few events there. Did it crumble the monarchy? No, it didn't. It shook it. You go back to 1936 with the abdication. Did it rock the monarchy? Well, there was somebody there who could take over. So yes, there was a slight tremble, and George VI took over, and the monarchy continued. Look, it's no good saying that one rotten apple makes the whole institution bad. It's not bad. The institution is strong. The institution will survive. Individuals may not survive. Will Prince Andrew survive? Well, that remains to be seen as to what course of action he takes. I doubt whether he'll actually go to court, because if you look at that 2019 interview in Newsnight, he's not very good at thinking on his feet. And if he goes to court, he is really going to have to think on his feet. And I don't think he's capable of that.
All right. Russell, I watched you in a new ITV documentary last night. You said that the Queen and other senior royals are really troubled by Virginia Giuffre, and that Andrew's handling of the entire case, as we've heard somewhat from Arick there, has been catastrophic. How should he have handled it?
Well, first and foremost, I think the Newsnight interview that he gave was his eventual downfall, because we've all seen what a cataclysmic decision that was, and he's really paying the price for it. And as Dickie says, I can't imagine his legal team would want him anywhere near a stand and in front of a jury, because he just doesn't come across believable at all. You've seen his excuses he's used, whether it's he can't sweat or whether he dropped his daughter to a Pizza Express restaurant. He hasn't been able to prove them. And then furthermore, this wall of silence he's put up over the last couple of years since the allegations came to light and since his Newsnight interview has been completely foolhardy. I think his legal team has been battling against changing winds, and he hasn't said anything. And certainly the senior members of the royal family have been completely baffled by his chosen point of attack.
Yeah. At the beginning of the programme, we heard one commentator saying that the Queen stripped Andrew of his titles to save the royal family. In her words, cutting off a gangrenous foot to save the body. Do you think she's achieved that?
Well, it's certainly up for debate of whether it should have happened, beforehand. The decision taken to strip him of his titles has left him completely ostracised from the royal family. It was the right decision to have taken. I think the court of public opinion weighs heavily against him in this sense. And even if he was to prove his innocence in a court of law, it's a long way back for his reputation because of how he's handled the whole case, I think. So Her Majesty had no choice, and certainly together with her heirs Charles and William, the decision was taken probably at the right juncture, I think.
Yeah, that's something that's come out. Is that speculation that Charles and William sort of consulted with the Queen and said this is the best course of action? Is that speculation, or do we know that they were consulted?
No, my firm understanding is that certainly Prince Charles and the Duke of Cambridge were integral to Her Majesty's decision. I mean, make no mistake, Her Majesty is the boss. She's sitting at the top. She was the one who decided to wield the axe. But of course, it's both Charles and William's and their family's future at stake. Right. And certainly this has had a catastrophic effect on the way that the monarchy is held in public opinion so far.
And is that what you mean when you say that the senior royals are troubled by Virginia Giuffre? They actually see this as a potential existential crisis which has to be dealt with quickly?
Yeah, certainly. I don't think I said it was troubled or about Virginia Giuffre as an individual. I think the whole concept of a senior member of the royal family having to defend themselves in a civil trial in an international court is particularly troubling to them. Furthermore, the way that this has been handled from start to finish has been an unmitigated disaster, and it's had huge effect on not only Prince Andrew, but the fallout has spreading far and wide at the moment.
Dickie, there have been calls for Prince Andrew to be stripped of his Duke of York title, his dukedom. Actually, some people are wondering why he's still called Prince Andrew.
Well, he was born a prince, so by default, he is a prince. Duke of York, it's not that easy to strip. And what happens, he's still left with the title prince. I think, as Russell says, and my words, not his, he is a busted flush. Decision taken to strip him was really, I believe, off the back of the judgment by Judge Lewis Kaplan that the trial would go ahead. The Queen effectively fired Andrew after that Newsnight interview. She just officially stripped him of the titles just last week, a decision that she would have taken in consultation with Prince Charles and the Duke of Cambridge in very much the same way as she took the decision at Sandringham when Harry and Meghan decided they wanted to leave. They couldn't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. She gave them an option. They chose both feet out, and Harry was stripped of everything. You can't play around with the monarchy. You're either in or you're out. You can't play around with having a court trial. Admittedly, they're allegations at the moment, and they still have to be proved, but it's still allegations. And Andrew, as Russell said, has handled this extremely badly, and he is a busted flush, and there is no way back for him.
Russell, as we mentioned, it's the Platinum Jubilee, 70 years on the throne for the Queen. She's widely seen as a steady hand and someone who's put duty first her entire reign. But what does the public think about the institution of the monarchy now? Have there been any recent polls that show their attitude towards the monarchy?
I think the monarchy is still held in a fantastic regard, both in the UK and abroad. Certainly, as you rightly said, Her Majesty has been revered for her way she's handled the concept of duty. And Prince Charles has had a fantastic renaissance over the last few years. Certainly worked very hard on his own personal PR. I mean, his reputation was battered at the start of his relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles, and she's now held in a fantastic regard for her work within the monarchy. But the Queen will not be here forever, unfortunately, and certainly I'm sure many people hope she has a further long reign to go. But when she is no longer here, then certainly there will be questions asked of whether the monarchy is able to continue in its current form. And like I said, with Prince Charles and Prince William taking this action with the Queen, they've got to think about their own futures, and they've got to think about how the monarchy is perceived within the wider public. And that's why you can't have people like Prince Andrew or his issues threatening the very fabric of the monarchy.
And so, just looking ahead towards the celebrations, apparently they're going to be the biggest since Queen Victoria. I don't know. Perhaps you could tell me. But of course, Andrew's now been entirely cut out of this. What role would he have had? And what other? I heard about a councillor role. Him and Harry. Him and Harry may also be taken out of those roles. What are they?
Yeah, well, there's 4 councillors of state, and they are members of the royal family who are normally the spouse and the 4 next in line over the age of 18. That would help the monarch with issues of state. So whether it's attending Privy Council meetings, if she can attend. Now, with Harry departing and living in the United States, he can no longer hold one of those senior roles. And because Andrew has now been forced out of the firm, he can no longer, one would assume, hold those roles. So the Queen would actually have to go to Parliament and change the law. And my understanding is those discussions are taking place within Buckingham Palace. Whether it happens, sooner rather than later, I'm not too sure. But it would be something that I think that the government would expect that the royal family are looking at, certainly.
Just a final question then. There's been recently a big sort of row about Prince Harry wanting to return to the United Kingdom and still enjoy public police protection.
Well, it's interesting because, one of the terms of his exit from the family was that he would have to pay for his own security, and people had assumed that that was widely accepted. Now Harry is taking the British government to court. He may be facing off against the Home Office in the High Court, which would be absolutely extraordinary. He is trying to say that he's challenging the decision to strip him of his security when he's back in the UK. For his part, he has suggested that he would pay for his own security, but the Met Police are not guns for hire over in the UK, and certainly there is the issue of whether Harry has sort of misjudged the mood and sort of misjudged the terms of the exit deal. I think it was put to me this week by someone very, very senior in the palace that the Duke of Sussex could have an argument in an empty room at the moment. So it's probably not the best course of action he's taken in his life.
Well, Russell Myers, Dickie Arbiter, Alan Dershowitz and Arick Fudali, thank you all very much for your contribution to the Nexus today. Much appreciated. And thank you at home and on your phones for watching. Remember, if you want to see this episode or any of our previous episodes, do go to our channel on YouTube. Just type in Nexus TRT World. Till next week then, goodbye.